Hey everybody, this is Corey Feldman, and you have found yourself listening to the Paulie Z Show. How's it feel?
Yo, 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 welcome back to the Paulie Z Show. This is episode number 22, and today I have a very special guest. We'll talk about Mr. Corey Feldman. Corey, say hi.
Hello!
Hello, Corey Feldman.
Hello, people of the world and Mr. Paulie.
Hello, Feldman. Feldman, you're part of the tribe, right?
I am indeed, of course. I am not just part of the tribe. I did a movie called The Tribe 2 years ago.
Now, was it about Jews?
Yeah, well, it was about Jewish vampires.
Oh, there you go. Well, why didn't you call me? I would have been perfect for that movie. I would have been I want to be, if I was ever a vampire, I want to be like the first vampire with an afro. I don't think there's ever, vampires always have like really straight hair. You notice that?
Well, actually, in the tribe, it was Lost Boys, the tribe. I'm just joshing you. But, yeah, in Lost Boys, we had a black guy, a black vampire.
Oh, okay.
Although he didn't have an afro. He wasn't an afro-wearing black vampire. Right. He was a shaved-head Nigerian black vampire. But hey, who's counting?
Well, maybe I could be the first afro vampire on the movie screen.
I'm sure in his pubic region there was an afro somewhere looming.
All right, that's a perfect segue to anything else but that. well, let me.
The only reason I thought of that is like sometimes when I look at your hair, I think the same thing. I'm like, that could be, like you could like substitute.
You want to know if the carpet matches the drapes?
No, I don't want to know. No, I don't want to know.
I could tell you if you really want to know. I'll tell you.
I really don't. No, it's okay. It's okay. You can hold back that information.
Okay.
Keep that for your female listeners.
So anyway, well, let's do. I wanted to give you a much better, proper introduction. This is such a weird introduction to this podcast, but all right. Well, you're one of those icons that I really don't have to explain. Sometimes I have people on the show that I have to kind of say, well, this guy is from this band or blah blah blah. I think if I say Corey Feldman, I'm going to take a guess. I'm going to go out on a line and just figure everyone is going to know who the hell you are. So I think, first of all, kudos for that. You've had an amazing career. Are you happy with what you've done to this point?
Well, some of it, there's good and there's bad. There's things that I'm very proud of, certain achievements, and then there's things that I'm like, oh man, please don't pay attention to that. That never happened.
Like what?
So,
like what?
Well, gee, let's not focus on the negative.
Well, that's the fun stuff. We know what you're good at. Let's see all the amazing. Let's see. Well, obviously, you're not going to renounce.
Many people know what I'm bad at, Paul. Let's just leave it at that. No, we've been doing what I do, what we do in this business. I've been doing it for 35 years. So, in 35 years, you can't be an A+ student all the time.
Right.
You can't always get the highest marks. So I've certainly had some highlights, and I've certainly had some, down points and some pitfalls. But I'd say cumulatively, I've been very lucky. I've had, 18 number one films, success both in music and film and producing and directing and all the stuff that I do. There's been successes and then there's been failures. So I think that's just the way it is. When you have a career that lasts and expands the way that mine has, you're going to have some crap moments. There's just no two ways about it.
No,
so
I think everybody. I mean, it's the same thing with music too, and for you people out there that are wondering why is Corey Feldman on a rock and roll podcast? Well, we'll get to that in a second because you actually are a musician yourself, right? So.
That's correct.
Right.
That's
so
correct.
We're going to talk about that in a minute, but
I've been in music for like 20 years now.
Oh, see, I didn't know that, and that's what you got to shed a little bit of light on. And wasn't your dad a musician too?
My dad was a musician. Actually, I don't know. He still might be. I don't really talk to him much, but the music is in the family gene, I guess you would say. My sister actually was also musically inclined. She was a little known fact here. My sister was a member of the Mickey Mouse Club back in the 70s.
Oh, yeah?
So she was singing and dancing, and actually I used to go and watch her perform when I was a little kid. So kind of like the Jacksons,
Right.
there our whole life.
Well, it's kind of like, me and my family the same way. My dad and his brother were in a power trio in the 70s called Z, and the drummer was Italian. And funny enough, me and my brother are in a power trio now called ZO2 with an Italian drummer named Joe. Both drummers were named Joe, and we always thought it was just awesome. Like our grandmother used to sing back in when during World War II, like they would have the guys that would come in from what am I talking about? USO. Yeah, that's it. Like they would, and she would do like zippity doo da, zippity a, for the troops, and our grandfather would sing. So it definitely is in the genes. And so you've been doing this for quite a while, but now the band.
Well, it's something to do with that Jew Fro. I'll tell you right now.
Is it a thing? Let's call it what it is. There's something about the Jews when it comes to like entertainment. What is it about us that we just like we like to entertain, and we like people watching us?
Let me entertain you.
Yeah.
No,
we like the spotlight. What is it about us?
But let me tell you, first of all, it's something to do with the Jew Fro. Okay, there's certain myths about the Jew that most people don't know. Okay, and we're going to bust them out right now.
Oh boy.
Number one, the Jew Fro. Let's just cover that, because even though you have one of the most expansive Jew Fros that I've seen in my day.
Why, thank you.
Because yours really it's something special. You're the kind of guy that like we could put Velcro on the ceiling and have you bounce on a bed and you'd never come down. You know what I'm saying? Like you've got that covered.
And but you mean that in a good way, I hope, right? That's a good thing.
It's complimentary. It's complimentary in a welcome back Cotter sort of way.
Horseshack.
I think it was Epstein, actually.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Horseshack.
No, you're right. Epstein
was the ugly one.
And
Epstein was like the cool one.
But Epstein wasn't he? He was Spanish Jewish. He was a Puerto Rican Jew, and believe it or not, I don't know if you know this, Corey. I'm Colombian and Jewish.
See, so I hit it right on the freaking head.
I'm definitely the real life Epstein. But go ahead, continue.
And here's the other thing. So what people don't know is that most Jews who don't have the straight hair, but most Jews have Jew Fros. And even me, you can never tell this because my hair is so neatly coiffed all the time. But when I grow my hair out and I wake up in the morning, I have a Jew Fro. I have to, basically glaze it down with tons of product. So I either have to have it short and with a lot of product to make it spiky appearing, or I have to like plaster it down and make it look straight. But when I wake up in the morning, I have a Jew Fro.
Well, why? Why do you not embrace the Jew Fro? Why are you trying to assimilate with the Goyim?
Well, I'll tell you, because it's not a good look on me. It works for you. It works for you. But I don't have that, that New York thing. I've got the West Coast, if I have a Jew Fro, I'm out of business.
Well, I noticed there's not a lot of Jew Fros out in the West Coast. Every time I go out to LA, I don't see anyone that looks like me. Why is that?
Exactly. Well, that's because it's an East Coast look. You got to think of it this way. Welcome Back Cotter did not take place in Santa Monica. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would have been really weird if, they were teaching, at this school on Melrose and Horseshack came walking in. That's any of them.
I have a theory about it.
Vinny Barbarino, how well would that have worked in, Sherman Oaks?
I have a theory about it, though. I think it's because it's so hot in California all the time that I think people with a Jew Fro would be sweating constantly.
Well, that's a good point.
See?
A good point. But then again, the humidity of New York in the summertime, that's got to get a little uncomfortable.
It does, and I think I trim it down a little bit. And I do sweat, but I have to tell you, in the wintertime, you know what I love about it warms my brain basically, and it keeps my brain incubated, which I think is why I'm so as smart and entertaining as I am, is because of the fro.
Right. It's like an incubator.
Right.
Right.
So now, all right. So let's go back to
moving on.
Yeah.
So we've got so that's myth number one. Number two is that Jews have very good rhythm for some reason.
Well,
I think it's because of our black heritage, but we're very close to black men.
Now, how are we close to black men? How's that? How do you figure that?
Because they say in our ancestry that Israelites were brown. I mean, let's face it, we were dark people, right?
Right.
And going back to biblical times, there's all this mythology that Jesus himself may have in fact been a black man.
Yes, I heard about that. Well, because of the
woolly
skin.
hair,
It wouldn't. They wouldn't.
dark
It
skin.
wouldn't make sense in the desert to have fair skin, the white skin.
Right. We've got the Jew Fros. So you got to kind of look at, the history of it all. That there is a good possibility that, in the origin of genetics, Jews and blacks were kind of, one. We were all one species, I think.
We
And
definitely get along. I don't know about you, but I am like an honorary brother. I get along with black people
look,
so
Sammy
much.
Davis Jr.
What?
Sammy Davis Jr.
Jew, yes.
Yeah, you know about Sammy, right? Sammy was a Jew.
Yeah, well, but was Sammy born a Jew?
Oh, no, he converted, but that's not the point.
All right, well, so did my mom, but she's technically a Jew. Hey, wait a second. Now, I heard, and now maybe I'm wrong, I heard in France, Santa Claus is black. So does that make him a Jew? Is Santa Jewish?
I don't know. I don't know that myth. I've never celebrated Christmas in France, but I can tell you that in Amsterdam, in Holland, they have Saint Nicholas.
Okay.
Saint Nicholas, which is different than Saint Nick. Saint Nicholas, because they have this thing. I guess it's not really Christmas. It happens at kind of a different time, but they have like their own day for Christmas. I don't know. It's very strange. And then in Australia, they celebrate Christmas in July. But I digress.
This is getting very religious. Yeah, very religious. Well,
I just like to keep tabs on things.
I think. Well, I'm glad. I like having intelligent people on my podcast, which is why I try not to have my band members on that much.
Right. Well, don't confuse me. I'm not intelligent. I just have a wealth of meaningless and senseless, trivia and knowledge in my brain. But that doesn't make me intelligent. That just makes me useless.
Listen, one man's uselessness is another man's rocket science. That's
true. That's
right?
a good point. Thank you for pointing that out.
There you go.
So number two is the rhythm, because for whatever reason, a lot of Jews are great dancers and vocalists. So there's a lot of very famous Jew musicians that people have kind of modeled their careers after. Leonard Cohen is a very good example. This is a guy that everybody would think, by looking at him, well, he's just a short little Jew, But in actuality, this guy has done some very moving and motivating, soulful and funky songs that, the music industry has modeled itself after. So he's a leader in the Jewish world. So that's one good example there. But there's hundreds and thousands.
Oh yeah.
Gene Simmons. There's another good one for you.
Well, you know what? What's funny is there's a lot of them that you don't know until you find out, and you're like, he's Jewish, and then it's like you get to the point that you almost figure almost everybody in the entertainment industry is like, you got to figure the majority of them are, and it's so weird when I find out someone like, honestly, I mean Feldman obviously kind of gives it away, but like you said, you don't really radiate Jewness with your image. You know what I'm saying? You don't have like
wait till you see my newest film coming out.
Oh, okay.
Then you'll question all of that statement right there.
Okay.
Because I have this movie that I just finished called The Adventures of Belvis Bash. As a matter of fact, there is you're gonna love this. There's a teaser clip up on the internet right now on YouTube from this film, The Adventures of Belvis Bash. I think you can just look it up under Belvis Bash or Corey Feldman Belvis Bash, something like that. But I actually play a Jew for, I think, the first time in my career. But I am a let's just say, characterized cartoon version of everything that we know to represent the Jewish nature.
Oh no!
And it's a lot of fun. It's insulting. It's insulting to myself, but to everybody, including the Jews and including people who like to make fun of Jews. It's insulting to all of them.
Isn't the rule that you're allowed to insult your own race? Like I can make Jew jokes, but I can't make black jokes or Spanish jokes. I can make Spanish. I can make
goy jokes.
Right. I can't
Don't
make goy
make fun
jokes.
of the goys.
Well, Spanish I can because I'm Spanish, but I can't make fun of other people because then it's just racist. But if I make fun of my own people, then it's just having fun. Isn't that weird?
Well, see, I'm an equal opportunity offender. I believe in making fun of everybody equally. If you single out one particular party, then you're a racist pig.
Right.
But if you make fun of everybody...
That's what I like to do. I just make fun. I think if you can make fun of yourself or other people and laugh about it, the world would be a much better place. Everyone is so freaking uptight. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
It's like there's so
Don't
much
take
bullshit.
yourself-
Oh yeah, it
Don't
drives
take
me
yourself
crazy.
or anybody else too seriously. That's what I've learned
Yes.
in my years of experience. Okay,
Well-
so we've gotten 2 points. So number 1 is the Jew Fro. Number 2 is the rhythm. And number 3 is that the other little known fact amongst the masses is that Jewish people hereditarily have very big schlongs.
Yes, but we don't get that. But what's the funny thing is our stereotype is the exact opposite. It's always that everybody thinks that Jews have little wieners. And it's,
No.
I mean, I don't know. I always thought my humongous, my package was because I had half Spanish blood. So I thought, oh, okay, maybe that's why I'm
As
so
a matter
large.
of fact, it's quite the opposite. Spaniards have little wieners.
Oh, you better be careful now. Be careful now.
No, it's true. It's
I got
true.
cousins that are getting out of jail next week.
Okay, go check them out. Go check them out. See what happened. See what happened when they were in jail.
Oh no!
I bet you they didn't have as many boyfriends as the Jewish guys did.
Well, that definitely would explain. That would explain a lot because I've been I've been blessed. I'm well endowed.
Right, as have I.
Yes.
But don't think that we're an anomaly because
No,
we're
I
not.
thought. So it isn't. So okay. So then why don't we have the same? Why do the blacks get are lucky
Why do
that
they get all
the
the credit? I'll
they
tell
get
you
the
why.
big
I'll tell you why.
schlong stereotype?
There's one
Lucky
good reason.
bastards.
There's one good reason.
Why?
Eddie Murphy.
What did he do?
Well, he just did all that, stand-up talking about what big schlongs black people had. So, of course, everybody went, oh, well, if Eddie Murphy said it in his stand-up routine, then it must be the truth.
So so here's what we need to do, Corey.
So he ruined it for everybody.
Whoa. He ruined it, but that doesn't mean we can't turn it around. You and I are going to have to start talking in the media, and we're going to have to start rectifying this. And
That's right.
We have to bring it back to where it belongs. We have to.
Well, I'd rather not rectify it. Let's vaginify it.
Let's
I'd
vaginify
rather
the
stay with-
situation.
yeah.
We'll vaginify it, and we'll make the people known. I bet you we can see the problem. You know who's fucking us up too? And I love him, but he's definitely not helping the situation, is Howard Stern.
Who?
Howard Stern.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, come on now. Don't play with my emotions. That man, I love him to death, but all he talks about is him having a small penis. And he's
Right,
probably
but that's 'cause
huge.
He's only half Jewish. So
Right.
he only got half of the solution.
So maybe he's got big balls, and then the other half is a small penis. Right?
I don't know, and I don't want to know.
All right.
Because, Howard Stern naked is, probably my worst nightmare. I could wake up in cold sweats over something like that.
Well, speaking of the fact that Jews are entertainers and have the rhythm and stuff, let's use that as a little segue.
And big schlongs.
And
Yeah,
big schlongs. So we make
right.
we make for the perfect rock star if you think about it. We got great
That's right,
hair.
damn
You
it.
basically said we have great hair. We have entertainment value, and we have big dicks basically. So we're the
right.
perfect rock
We
star.
can take care of business after the show.
That's right. And we can put together our own contracts. Look at that.
That's right. And we're intelligent, too, aren't we?
Yeah. The only thing is we definitely are chicken. I don't know. I don't like to get into fights. That's the one thing I will say. I'm not a fighter.
You know what? I am not. I am a pacifist. I am a peaceful man. I do not believe in violence. However, I will avoid a fight at all costs. But if I'm pushed into a corner, watch out. Because the thing that I have learned about Jews is, although we don't like to provoke fights, if you push us into a corner, we
Yes.
have this temper. All Jews have this temper because we remember the Holocaust.
We'll explode. We will explode. But we have a long. I think we have a. Would you say? Would it be safe to say that we have a very long fuse to match our long schlong?
That's right. That's correct. Because our balls and our testicles and our schlongs are so big, they're so ginormous.
Ginormous.
That it takes
Where
so
are we
much
going with
provoking.
this? Wait a second. Hold on. I'm going to use the big testicles as a segue into your music right now.
Oh, that's great. Fabulous.
You like that? Well,
That's a
you know,
great segue.
it takes balls to put out good ballsy music. So I don't know. That was a terrible segue, but I definitely want to make sure we talk about. And speaking of us having, the rhythm and this and this and that. So now you do have a band called Truth Movement, right? That's what it is.
Truth Movement.
Truth
yes.
Movement. Now, And Truth Movement, for people out there, I listen to it. I like the stuff a lot. It's very, very Pink Floyd. I mean, I'm sure you hear that a lot, right?
Thank you. Yeah, and that's something that I'm not, I don't shy away from that comment. As a matter of fact, we welcome it and embrace it.
Okay.
Especially pertaining to the fact that I've been fortunate enough through my musical ventures to obtain the help and recruit the help of some of Pink Floyd's artists through the years to coordinate and help be a part of this project. So not only is it like Pink Floyd and been called so by critics and reviews and things like that, but we actually embrace it and are lucky enough to work with some of those artists and make it a big happy family. So yes, the band itself, a group of local musicians from LA who are vastly talented young guys, but we also have the help of John Caron from Pink Floyd, who has been with them for 25 years. As a matter of fact, he's getting ready to go out and do the Wall Tour with Roger Waters this year.
I heard. Which
is going to be insane. But, lucky me, he's still doing shows with us this summer too. So, it's very exciting. And
did you get the guys? Did you get the guys from Hypnosis to do the artwork? Is that who you're talking about?
Storm Thurgeson.
Yeah, you're working with Storm Thurgeson?
Well, Storm Thurgeson did all the artwork, for the last album.
That's amazing.
He did 11 new pieces of art specifically for our album. We obviously couldn't fit all of the art in there because there's only so many pages in the damn book.
Right.
But I had to pick, the top ones, and I think there's like 5 or 6 new pieces of art from him in the packaging. The front and back cover, of course, are still photographs, which he designed and photographed. And then inside, when you open the booklet up, there's, I think, like 4 or 5 different renderings that he did, which were kind of like ideas. I mean, basically the way he works is like, and so the audience knows what we're talking about because some might not get it. Storm Thurgeson is the legendary artist, genius, who is responsible for Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, Animals, all those iconic classic album covers that we all know and love.
And
outside
Zeppelin.
of the Pink Floyd world, he also did Genesis, Led Zeppelin, all the great rock bands from the 60s and 70s. I mean, that was him. So anyway, the way he works is he goes and he draws up a bunch of ideas based on the music, and then he submits it to you, and then you basically have to pick one out of all of these, genius artworks and kind of focus on it and go, okay, this is the one that I want to be photographed and turned into a real image. But of course, they were all so amazing, I couldn't decide on just one, so I had to get 2. Okay. And so that became the front and the back of the album cover. And then the other ones were so good, I couldn't just throw them away. So I was like, you got to let me use these somehow. So that's why, in fact, you see 2 actual photographs, and then the rest of it's all concept art, I guess you would say.
Oh, I see. Is he crazy expensive?
Oh yeah, super expensive.
Okay. I mean, it's worth it, but I'm just wondering if he's still, at that price range.
Oh yeah, you got it. I mean, I would say the most expensive singular piece of the album was the artwork.
Wow. And is he? But now it's just him, or does he still have Hypnosis? Because I'm pretty sure they closed that down.
No,
right?
he's actually broken off from Hypnosis at this point. When I actually started working with him and developing the concepts, he was still with Hypnosis, but then as the process was going on, he broke off, and now it's Storm Studios.
Oh, okay.
That's
yeah.
what he calls
and
it.
for people that don't know, Hypnosis was the company, basically, that I guess he started, right, with, he was one of the main guys that started it.
Right, with the other guy, Peter Curzon, is that right?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I know Peter Curzon is his partner, but I don't know if that was the original guy, if that was another guy. But anyway, yes, he started that back in the 60s. And, was basically the one that was responsible for giving Pink Floyd their image because, as I've learned being, very close with, the band and family and friends and all that kind of stuff, I've heard many great stories. And basically, when they first came out, they were doing this, really obscure, weird stuff that, nobody knew what it was. And the way that, people learned about them was from these things called happenings in the 60s. They would do these happenings. And, they would show up at, kind of what would be a rave to us now, back in those days. where, you'd walk in, it was like a really trippy atmosphere and, very cool lighting going on and, some weird acid jazz band, playing whatever kind of trippy stuff in the corner and people just dancing around and tripping on acid to it. So it was very, very similar to, the raves, but I guess with, more hardcore drugs and trippier music. So anyway, so when that all started, in that movement back in the 60s, they kind of all made this decision like, well, we're kind of weird-looking guys. We're not the Beatles. I don't think we're going to get all the teen bop magazines, and the girls aren't just going to fall, head over heels for us. So what can we do? Our music is so different. What can we do that makes us kind of stand out from the crowd? And Storm actually used to be on the football team with these guys. They all played soccer together because they all went to college together. And most of them actually were majors in, I'm forgetting the architecture. They were all architectural guys. And they were all going to college together. They were playing football, soccer together. And at some point, Storm said, hey, I have an idea. How about we use an image of you guys on the cover and we come up with these really cool designs instead, which since they were all art majors, they all, appreciated. So that was basically how it started. And it was really through Storm and his partner's influence that they basically, crafted Pink Floyd's career into being this kind of anonymous entity where the music really spoke for itself. It wasn't about, the picture or the image of the band on the cover, but it was more about an image that represented and fit the music.
Right.
And I always really liked that idea. Like, to me, it was like, that's so intriguing, you know what I mean? Because the first thing you do when you buy a CD, you buy an album, is you sit there and you stare at the artist like, what's this guy all about? But when you can't find out what that guy is all about from an image, it makes it so much more captivating.
Well, that's what's great about Iron Maiden. If you think about Iron Maiden, like it was that Eddie and that whole look, you can tell right away what the music was going to be like. It was like, and Rush is a good example of another band that kind of had that same thing. It was a very intellectual, all their artwork. Like, are you a Rush fan by any chance?
Not really a Rush fan.
No, okay.
I missed the boat on that one.
Let's not talk about Rush then.
Yeah, let's not talk about it.
But if you notice, we'll talk about it for 2 more seconds. Their album covers were very much like that, like very intellectual and very, Rush weren't, same kind of thing. Those 3 guys weren't guys that were going to have chicks knocking down their door to sleep with them. So it's like, okay, and their lyrics were much more intellectual. So, I mean, I know exactly what you're saying. I think, it's a lost, it just seems like a lost cause though right now, because our album art and just the idea of an album, like even just the song order, it seems like, I don't know, like a thing of the past.
Everything, well, you would think so, because everything is so commercialized and pre-boxed and determined, and, get the catchy little pop song and, get somebody that, looks good on the cover and prepackage it and send it out to the masses. And it's all candy-coated,
Yeah.
So you're right about that. And it's like songs are just songs, they're just a bunch of stuff thrown on an album together. It doesn't really make a lot of sense musically. And on top of it, of course, all the songs sound the same. But that, my friend, is why I do what I do, because we segregate ourselves from that philosophy. If you, sit down and you listen to the new Truth Movement album, which is called Technology and Now, by the way, it is a concept album. That is what we do. We've got concept album artwork. We've got a concept album. It tells a story. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's very much like the classic rock operas from the 70s, Quadrophenia or The Wall or Dark Side of the Moon, things like that, Tommy. So it actually tells a story, and you can actually follow it, and it kind of plays continuously. So unless you were actually go to iTunes and just buy a track, you can actually listen to it seamlessly, and where it starts is where it finishes, and where it finishes is where it begins. So you can just kind of keep it on continuous play, and you'll never really know where the album starts or stops, which is great. I love that stuff.
So wait, when on your MySpace, when I was listening to some of your songs, those songs are not independent from each other? They're supposed to be one,
no, the way that, like on the MySpace, for example, we've just got a few selections thrown up there which are kind of some of the singles from the album, if you will. But like even Pink Floyd, on The Wall, for example, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, or Comfortably Numb, obviously those are the singles. Those are the most, radio-friendly songs. But, you can't like go, okay, here's the new song from Pink Floyd and play the entire Wall. You know what I mean?
Right,
you had to, like, find a song that was a single that could be commercialized. So that's kind of what we did with this. There are selections up there so you can listen to songs independently, but the best way to hear this album is really in continuity and to listen to the whole thing straight through.
Well, tell people where they can get this, obviously, other than iTunes and stuff. Tell them about your website real quick. Plug that.
Well, yeah, come to my website. CoreyFeldman.net is the address. And you can go there and you can actually order it online. You can get the actual artwork. And let me tell you something that makes this album very unique. First of all, our first single was called Green is the Color, which is a song that I wrote for the environment, which I actually co-wrote with John Karen. I was getting that, but John Karen from Pink Floyd, for those of you who don't know, is certainly one of the masterminds of the band in the last 25 years. He co-wrote Learning to Fly, which was actually the biggest number one hit, or the only number one hit Pink Floyd ever had, I believe, and the biggest hit they ever had in their entire history. So John is a huge asset, and he also happens to be the only guy who has so cleverly ridden the fine line between Pink Floyd and the solo acts that have derived from it. So he works with Pink Floyd for the last 25 years as the keyboard player alongside Richard Wright, who, God bless him, is no longer with us. But he played with Pink Floyd. He also plays with David Gilmour when he does his solo ventures, and then also plays with Roger Waters
Jesus.
when he does his solo ventures.
Talk about wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's, I consider him to be the luckiest man on earth because, like, how did he get that gig? You got two guys who don't talk to each other for 20 years, but yet they share one band member.
That's insane. Can I ask you a question real quick, Corey?
Sure.
Are you a fan of Pink Floyd?
Not at all. Not at all. No, they're terrible stuff.
I'm just taking a wild guess here. You like Pink Floyd, I guess, right?
No, I've listened to them before. Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. I just have every version of the album from every country and every pressing and.
Right. No, you know what? I'll tell you, it's an interesting thing in my life because. And we can get it. Well, let me finish. I'll get back to that. But I was talking about Green is the Color. Green is the Color was the title track for the album, which is really about the environment. And John and I co-wrote that song together. I wrote the lyrics and the melody. He wrote the music, and he plays every single instrument on that song, which is really impressive. And we also do it as a duet. He's got an amazing voice because he does all the harmonies, with Pink Floyd, obviously. But when he plays with David Gilmour or Pink Floyd, he does Roger Waters' parts. And when he plays with Roger Waters, he does David Gilmour's parts. So the guy is vastly talented.
That's insane.
And amazing to sit down in the studio with because he can literally just play anything at any time. So we wrote that song together, which is about the environment. And then to kind of back it up, we produced Storm's artwork on all recycled materials. So if you go and you buy the actual album from, my website, which is the only place you can actually buy the physical album right now, you will get the original packaging, which actually is this nice glossy material, which you would swear is just regular CD packaging material. But in fact, it's recycled paper produced on soy ink with a corn plastic disc tray, which I believe makes it the most environmentally friendly album ever produced.
Wow.
And if you don't like it, you can actually take it and throw it in the ocean, and it'll go back to nature because it's biodegradable.
See, now and look at me, silly me. I figured to get people to buy CDs, I'll just put personalized playing cards in there. And then I thought that would be the way to go. I should have made a biodegradable, recyclable, what else is it? Green?
Well,
that's about it. I covered it? All right, I think I covered it.
But that covers it. I mean, the bottom line is, if you don't like it, I'm just giving you an out. That's all I'm saying.
I think we should, my next CD packaging is going to be, you take the CD out and you can actually eat the package. It's going to be edible.
I like that.
See?
That's good.
But that's what I'm saying, right?
It's not only recyclable, but it's digestible.
Digestible CD packaging. Because then think about it, that's saving the environment. You're very into this whole green thing, right? I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. You're no joke. Like, you're serious about
slouch.
this. No slouch. No. This is not like this is not like a PR move or like a marketing ploy. I mean, you're really into it.
I walk the walk. I use only green friendly products in my house.
That's crazy.
We have 4 different, trash cans for recycling. I'm all about saving the planet, saving the environment, saving the animals. I'm a vegetarian for that reason.
Yes, which we will talk about. We need to talk about the vegetarian, but before we talk about that, I know obviously there's a lot of green and save the world influence on your music. I wanted to, not to go into a dark place, but just for a little bit, I was wondering, with the passing of Corey Haim, obviously, for people listening, did that have anything like this? Do you take some of that and put some of that personal emotion into your music also? Or do you kind of separate and just say, this is just about like green stuff, the world, and I don't really want to involve that kind of stuff?
Well, the album was actually written long before Corey passed away. So the album was done about 2 years ago, and then we got it out about a year ago. So even though we're only touring this summer, we did a couple shows last year, one of which was actually a live green carpet event that we did here in Los Angeles at the Key Club, which we had Ed Begley Jr. host the event because he's like Mr. Green Environment Aficionado. Mm-hmm. And we actually had this film called Fuel, which is about different forms of biodiesel and engineering future technologies for alternative energy. So they were like one of the sponsors. And we did like a big fundraiser. We gave money to Global Green. And then we followed it up by doing another show, which was the first of its kind, which we called the Off the Grid performance, which we did at Universal Studios in Hollywood. And we actually were the first band in history to take Universal City Walk off the grid for a live performance, where we brought in our own biodiesel generators to supplement the normal power grid that they would typically use for a rock concert. So I'm still developing that idea, but that's something that I plan on touring with. I'm going to definitely try to put off on a couple of the stops on this tour, but I'm just here to say that there is a solution. There is a blueprint that I've created that can standardize and revolutionize the music industry so that we don't have to leave the huge carbon footprint we've left in the past behind when we do a live rock concert.
But do you meaning I guess the question was more like when you're writing your music, let's say you're about to write a song tomorrow, you picked up the guitar and you're like, I'm going to write something. Like, do you say, do you try to focus it? Like, is there a message that's pretty clear that's like, okay, this is about this, the environment?
Yeah. Well, one of the things, like the name of the band is Truth Movement, which is, kind of on the head, because I really like to write about things that I feel are pertinent and relevant to society. I'm not writing about, banging bitches in my, Forerunner and, pulling out my bling for the Mercedes and the BMWs. You know what I mean? It's not about that.
Let me write that. I'll write that. You worry about the green.
Okay, you write. Okay. For me, it's I really like to write stuff that is somehow meaningful in some way, that's motivational, that can help kind of bring people into a new light. And the music, I'm not going to say it's all positive and happy and go lucky, because it's dark sometimes, but I believe that you have to go through the darkness to get into the light. And it's topical, so I could write about anything. I wrote a song on my last album, which wasn't a band album, about Michael Jackson, obviously before he passed away, but we had a following. And on my last solo record, which was called Former Child Actor, I wrote this song called Megaloman, which was, was in the midst of a fight that I was having with MJ, and right after I'd kind of come back from this whole escapade in New York City, actually, during 9/11, when I'd seen him at Madison Square Gardens. And so this was kind of like my angry song to Michael that I'd written. So yes, I do write topically as well.
Right.
But again, it's not just stuff that, it's not stuff that I think is what's commercial or what's pop or what's easily accessible. It's stuff that I think has a message one way or another. Even if it's a personal message, it's still something that I think a lot of people can relate to.
Well, I think what about? I mean, I've seen obviously the Two Coreys was very successful. A lot of people love that show. I don't think I've seen every episode, but I've seen a bunch of them. And you guys fought a lot also.
Right.
Yeah,
well, I never wrote an angry song to Corey, if that's what you're
No, I wasn't going to say
but
angry, no, but I was going to say now after the fact that he passed away, and I'm sure there's a lot of emotion there. I'm assuming, obviously you miss him, whether, I don't know how it ended. I mean, did it end off good?
Yeah, it did. I mean, we ended on a positive note. We actually became very close the last few months before his demise. We'd had a falling out. I mean, going back to the Two Coreys, there was, the final episodes, which, were pretty obvious that, it was done. I mean, it was over. There was nothing more that I could do at that point, and I had to walk away, and that's kind of where things were left. And that wasn't just for the show. I mean, that was the reality of the situation. I made it very clear to him and his mom and everybody else that, look, I can't sit here and watch him destroy himself, because when you love somebody, you care about somebody, and you're their best friend, the last thing you want to do is sit there and watch them destroy themselves and tear themselves apart. And it was hugely uncomfortable and impossible to sit back and just kind of take the sideline on anymore, and especially as somebody who's been through recovery and all that stuff. I'm very motivated with health and doing the right thing and making the right moral choices and things like that. So it just became immeasurably difficult to kind of sit back and watch the demise. So I made a very clear stance, like, this is it, we're done. And there was nothing else to do. And I said, look, if you were able to get sober, if you were able to go to rehab and do this, then I would consider doing a third season. But where we stand right now, I can't work this way, and I'm not gonna sit here and I'm not gonna watch you do this to yourself. And I don't want to be subjected to the idea of, I was the executive producer of the show along with Corey, but I was taking kind of the lion's share of the duties. And as a producer, I couldn't sit back and hold my accountable for delivering a product on a weekly basis when I was working with somebody that was incapacitated half the time. So that was kind of, meant to be the end. And then we didn't speak for about a year. And then at the end of that year, his mom got very ill and got cancer. And that was right around the time that my life started falling to pieces. I lost several people in my life. I mean, last year, honestly, this past year has been, quite honestly, the most difficult year of my life. I had 7 deaths, one of which was my grandfather, who was like a father to me, one of which was Michael Jackson, and one of which, of course, was Corey, but that was, the tail end of it. And then in the midst of all that, I went through a divorce. So I was literally just going through hell. And, Corey knew about my, my losses, and he knew about my divorce, and there was part of him that was actually very happy that I was getting divorced, but the other half of him was, obviously concerned for me. And he called me up one day and he said, let's put an end to this. And I said, well, are you sober? And he was like, well, I'm doing better,
Right.
But my mom is sick, and, I'm really trying to focus and get my life together because I got to take care of her, and I got to be there for her. So on that note, we got together and, kind of started reassimilating our broken friendship. And as we kind of went down that road and went on that journey, the bond became very strong again. I mean, I was, taking his mom to get her chemotherapy treatments at the hospitals, and, because they didn't have a car. So I was like picking him up and driving him around and stuff like that, taking Corey out, letting him come stay at my house again, and things that, I couldn't do certainly with the marriage because, my ex-wife felt just as strongly as I did, and especially, with the kid around and stuff like that. You just didn't want somebody that was, effed up all the time.
Right.
So, it was mandatory at that time that we had this separation. But again, once I moved out of my situation, now we were able to kind of go back and rekindle our friendship and have a bond that, we hadn't had in a long, long time. And we became very close again, like brothers. And, we were literally talking and texting each other on a daily basis right before he died.
Well, that's good news. I mean, it's nice to know that at least you had that positiveness at the end, because I think there's nothing worse than someone leaving this planet and then it's like, you know what I mean? And like, it's just like, oh, if I would have known.
Yeah,
like
we had the closure. As a matter of fact, the day that he died, I was supposed to take him to the dentist because he had a tooth that had just been fixed by my dentist. Because, he was from Toronto, so he didn't have a lot of people here. And so he had lost a tooth, and I had a dentist appointment that day, and he asked me if, he could take my appointment because he had an emergency situation to get this tooth fixed. So I was like, sure. So I actually, that morning, we were supposed to go pick him up and take him down to the dentist to replace my appointment, and then that's when I got the bad news. So we were speaking on a daily basis, and yeah, it was shocking and of course horrific, when everything went down that went down.
Have you always, like your whole life, you were talking about before about like, you like to take, the higher ground, you try to make decisions that are better for you, your body, just in general, just like, you have a moral code that you follow. Have you always been like that? Or did you have, a part of your life where it was like you were all fucked up and whatever, and then you kind of came out of it and renounced that stuff?
Well, I guess a little bit of both. I'm certainly no saint. I'm not an angel. I like to go out. I like to have fun. But I learned very early that, there's ways to party responsibly. Some people don't learn that lesson, unfortunately. And, I took the drugs and alcohol and all that stuff at a very early age, as a lot of kids do in the world,
I didn't.
Yeah, everybody goes. It's experimental phase. It's just part of growing up. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, but it's funny.
It's shocked if my own kid didn't go through it.
But the funny thing is, my brother and I didn't. It's so weird. Our little brother did. Like he smoked for a little while. He drank. He did this and that. And like David and I don't know why, but we just never got into that phase. Like I never did it. And it's just.
And you still don't?
No, I don't drink. I've never smoked a cigarette. I've tried weed. Maybe 5 times in my life. I've been drunk, maybe like the same, maybe 5 times, just as novelties. But that's it. Like, never did any drugs or anything.
That's great. You're one of the lucky ones, I guess. But you also have more to worry about because there's a danger in that too, which is that when you don't experience those things at a young age, sometimes you get the crazy idea to start doing it at an older age. I know a lot of people who never did anything their whole lives, and then they turn, 35 or 40, and they're like, what have I been doing? I've missed out on everything. I want to try. And then, and then when you get addicted or you become an alcoholic at a later stage in your life, it's much, much harder to walk away from it. So anyway, I consider myself very lucky that I went through, all of that at a very young age. We're talking 20 years ago. So I was, a kid, and I went through it for, I think it was about 2.5 years that I was basically in the, the drug scene. And then, I was basically forced to get sober because I ran into all sorts of problems with the law and things like that. And once I got sober and I got off the hard drugs, I never went back. And that's been 20 years. So I'm very grateful. But I guess as a kid, I always had a moral fiber. Okay, I always had like an ethical code, as you had kind of mentioned in my life. I've always been, a spiritual person. I've always done a lot of praying. I've always believed in God. I've always, had a strong moral fiber.
Religious? Would you say religious though? Like, was it tied to Judaism or just its own separate thing?
Yeah, I was raised with Judaism and with a Jewish heritage and background and upbringing, and I went to Hebrew school and
you went to Hebrew school?
Studied for bar mitzvah.
How many years? How many years?
I think like 2 years.
I did 4, baby. 4 years of yeshiva.
Yeah, baby.
You wore the did you have to wear tzitzis and everything?
I don't. What is that? I don't remember.
Oh, come on. That ain't the real deal then. It's the thing underneath your shirt. It was like a white undershirt thing with a little...
No. I
things-
never got that because that was like the graduation year.
Oh, okay.
So that was like when you were like 12, turning 13.
Well,
But I did it from like probably 9 to 11, something like that.
yeah, I did
So,
first through fourth grade. I did it, and it was like half the day was Hebrew, half the day was English. I hated it though. I hated it so much.
right. I remember just like having to learn all those ridiculous letters, and bot, abat, and
Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet,
Yeah.
Hey, Lamed.
Exactly.
Well-
All that good stuff. So yeah, I had the Jewish upbringing, but I decided kind of early on that although a lot of my philosophies are grounded in the Jewish belief system, I'm not somebody that believes too much in religion as a whole. I believe in religion at their derivative. I believe in all religions, but I also believe that, man's greed has tainted the purity of what religion was meant to be. So at this point in my life, I believe in all religions, but I believe in no religions. And what that means is I believe in them at their derivative, at the beginning
Well,
of
the
what
core,
they were created
right.
for.
I'm like you. I'm the same way. I don't believe in the organization of the religion.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
But the actual, the pureness of it, it's no different than, I hate to say it, but it's no different than music versus the music industry. I love music.
Correct.
I don't necessarily love the music industry because it sort of taints the pureness of what the original idea is. So I understand exactly what you're saying.
But when it comes to like my depiction of what I believe God to be, I would say that it's more grounded in the Jewish tradition and belief than anything else.
Now, are
you know
you
what I mean?
just out of curiosity? Are you kosher?
No, I'm not.
Okay,
No.
that's interesting. Were you
But
ever?
then again, I'm vegetarian, so I don't have to be kosher.
Right, I guess so. Well, now, so I'm glad you
So
actually
I guess,
brought
yeah.
that up because
I guess I am kosher.
See, you are
I'm
by
kosher
default.
all
You
the
didn't
time.
even see. You didn't even realize that you're kosher and
That's
you
right.
didn't even know. But I'm
right.
glad you mentioned that because I wanted to ask you, as far as like taking the moral ground with the drugs and stuff. Other than that, when I met you, you were telling we had a nice conversation about being vegetarian and all and the benefits of that and stuff. That's a whole nother thing. It's just food in general, and obviously this podcast is not only music and stuff. It's mainly music and food. That's a big thing for me in my life, and I struggle with that. That's my drug, and I think we were talking about before, and my fans know because I've been tweeting it that I just recently made a decision to to cut out dairy and gluten and to reduce my red meat and see how that affects me because I have asthma and it's like allergies are killing me right now. And I've heard from reliable sources that really really helps health wise. And you seem to be you look great. I mean, dude, you look incredible, and you seem to be like, you're energized, you're healthy. So not only the drugs and alcohol, but the food is a big part of that. So tell us a little bit about how that came to be. Were you always vegetarian, or did something happen to make you switch over, and how's it been?
No, I started vegetarianism when I was 13 years old. So it was kind of like, my Shabbat. It was my bar mitzvah to become vegetarian, because it was one of those things I started thinking about when I was about 10, and I used to tell my family, I want to be a vegetarian. I don't want to eat meat. I don't believe in killing animals for food if you can get food other ways, and I just don't think it's mandatory. And I think that this is a choice I want to make. And they would always tell me, you're a kid, you can't do that. You won't grow up to be big and strong, and you won't be healthy, and you can't sustain yourself if you're not, and I said, well, I don't believe that. So I wanted to do it since I was 10, and I had so much adversity, and there was so much resistance from my family that I just wasn't physically, allowed to do it while I was living under their roof. But thanks to the Jewish tradition, when I turned 13, they had to respect my wishes because, for those of you who don't know, when you're Jewish and you turn 13, that's considered becoming a man. So
you're a man.
Legally, in the United States, you're not self-reliant and independent. By Jewish tradition, you are, so you're able to make those kinds of decisions. The other part of it was that I was heavily influenced at the time by Michael Jackson and Steven Spielberg. Michael Jackson was a vegan at the time, and there weren't many of those back then either. And then and Spielberg was a fish and chicken guy, but he didn't eat red meat. So both of them were kind of hitting me from both sides at the time, and I was already there anyway, so it just took that little extra nudge, to get me to go, okay, fine, let's do it.
And you definitely feel that you're saying there is an actual, you feel better. I mean, you saw a significant difference by doing that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, people all the time, they go, how old are you? How old are you? What are you, 22, 23? I'm like, no, actually, I'm 37. So, I don't drink and I don't eat meat. And I think that has a lot to do with, I attribute that to, how healthy I feel and energetic and vibrant and youthful and all that stuff. I mean, mentally, I consider myself to be a big, giant kid anyway, and I think I always will be, because I believe in being childlike as opposed to childish, which is kind of always looking at the world through a youthful perspective.
I think I'm unfortunately, I think I'm childish. I'm trying to be more childlike.
I think so too, but that's okay.
Hey, wait a second.
And I don't even know you that well, but this is just from the brief time that we've shared.
Astute observation.
No, it's true. I mean, I'm a big, giant, dorky kid. I play with toys. I generally have to fight my kid over the toys because he's trying to take them out of my hands.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I have a whole garage full of action figures. I got all my Masters of the Universe and my Thundercats, in order, put away nice and neat. I mean,
right. I got my Star Wars toys. I got my Star Wars collection. I got my, I mean, everything. I even got Goonies dolls. Do
you still see you do? Is there a Corey Feldman figure out there from the Goonies line?
Of course there is. Of course.
You have lived. See, that is my ultimate goal. That's there has to be a Paulie Z action figure before I die. Otherwise, I will not. I will not die in peace. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm lucky enough to have actually several action figures. I have the Goonies doll, which was put out, actually just a few years ago. They put out this line of action figures. And then I did a cartoon show for Disney called Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go, which I believe still plays on Jetix, but that was on for several years. And they did a line of talking dolls from that. So my voice is in a Disney action figure, which is pretty damn cool. And then I have another action figure which was made specifically, it's a one-of-a-kind, but it was made for the show Robot Chicken, which Seth Green does for Cartoon Network.
Love that show. That show is meant for people like me and you. That's
right.
That's my dream show. Oh my God.
And they actually created, a little puppet version of me, which I also have on my mantle in my collectible room. So I have 3 different versions of action figures.
I have a lot of catching up to do, bro. Dude, I don't even have
35
one.
Years, buddy. 35 years.
I don't have one. Well, I'm not that far behind you, unfortunately. I wish I could say I was, but I'm not that far. You had a good head start. All right? I didn't start. I wasn't in a McDonald's commercial 3 years old, all right? Give me a break, man.
But this is what I'm trying to tell you. Did you ever hear of the rabbit and the hare? Did you ever hear or the tortoise?
The tortoise and the hare. Yes.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
I know the tortoise and the hare.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's not a race. It's not a race.
That's true.
All
so wait, which one am I?
To get there in the end.
I'm the tortoise?
Well, at this point, you're the tortoise.
At this point, I'm
actually, I mean, you do have the hair.
That's what I was going to say. I should be the hare because I got the hair, but it doesn't make sense. Well, listen, real quick because we're running out of time. But what I wanted to just
let me just give you a little bit of quick advice on the vegetarian.
That's what I was going to just ask you. You read my mind. I need to know some advice so I don't drop dead if I cut all this stuff out of my body.
Right. Well, here's everybody's got different philosophies on what works best. I've been doing what I do. I've been a vegetarian for 25 years now. Okay. So in my 25 years, when I first started, they didn't have options for vegetarianism. They didn't have alternatives to red meat. They didn't have alternatives to chicken, things like that. So my diet consisted of cottage cheese and yogurt and applesauce and pizza. And that's not a very healthy palate. You know what I mean? So I was kind of a mess as a kid, but I still managed to get by until the point that science had evolved to where it is today. And that's one of the things, the number one argument that you get from people is, well, you're supposed to eat meat. It's in the Bible. That's what it says you're supposed to do. That's what animals are put on this earth for. Well, that's all bullshit, because at the end of the day, the Bible was written 2,000 years ago, folks. we didn't have soy meat. We didn't have gluten and wheat and tofu and all these other things that are processed today that taste like meat. So we didn't have the options. And even 25 years ago, we didn't have the options.
Right.
So nowadays, there's many different ways that you can approach it. You know, you can be vegan. You can be, a fish and chicken guy. You can be full vegetarian, but you eat dairy. You can be a gluten guy. You know, all these different ways of going. But what I feel works best, and this would be my advice to you, so you don't drop dead or lose weight, because you've got a good physique. You're, a big guy. You obviously go to the gym. You work out.
Thank you. I like this part. This is my favorite part of the interview, by the way, just right now.
All right, don't let it go to your afro. The point I'm making is you can live that lifestyle and you can be just as healthy. I mean, look, I'm 37. My body right now, looks like a 20-year-old boy. I'm not going to go on with that comment.
I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, exactly. I look like I was molested by a priest last week.
but with
anyway,
a big schlong, with a big Jewish
yes,
schlong.
Exactly, with a big schlong.
So what would you say?
The point is that
yeah, go ahead.
I don't even work out. I mean, I really don't. I have gone through spurts in my life, but I really, on a daily basis, all I do is eat healthy and I don't drink alcohol. And you'd be amazed how much fat falls off your body if you put down the alcohol and you put down the red meat. So just cutting out those two things in your life, and since you're not a big drinker anyway, that shouldn't be a problem for you.
Well, I don't drink at all. Yeah, there's nothing to cut out.
They keep you lean and slim and healthy. But additionally, I eat a lot of dairy because I'm not vegan. And I think, gluten and soy and wheat and tofu are all the ways that you replace the meat that is already existing in your life. So if I were to be giving you advice, I would say don't, stay away from the gluten, because I think that's a great source of protein. It's a great supplement. And unless you've got like some kind of blood pressure problem or something like that, the doctor's telling you need to stay away from.
Well, it's more for allergies. It's not for fat and stuff. It's the dairy and the gluten is only because of asthma and mucus and allergies. It's supposed to be directly linked. Again, I hear everybody's got a different opinion. I'm just trying to see if it works. But
well, I mean, obviously dairy, that's true. I mean, with dairy, there's certainly a link to the, to phlegm and stuff in your system and things like that. But that's a little bit different. My suggestion would be, because to everybody I say, look, you got to start somewhere. So if you start by just cutting out red meat, that's a start, and you're going to eat chicken and fish. I mean, that's not my advice. That's not the best way to go. But if you got to start somewhere and you're worried about failure, then it's a good place to start. However, my, ultimate, the way I do things and the best plan of action, I think, is to, be vegetarian. I would say if you can handle being vegan, great. If you don't have a problem cutting out the dairy, then that's awesome. But
I've been good so far.
But if you feel that you're really missing something with the dairy, because that's my biggest thing is like when I'm on the road touring with my band, like I will be this summer, you got to stop and you got to eat. And I got news for you. When you're in Hodunk, Iowa, they're not going to have like a vegetarian restaurant. Do have stuff at all the major supermarkets. You can go to Whole Foods, or you can go to what's the big supermarket out there.
Well, we have this Trader Joe's is a good one.
Right, that's a high end. I'm talking like
I don't just sort of like Pathmark, Seatown, ShopRite, those kind of places.
Right, exactly. So most of those big supermarket chains nowadays have a frozen food section, which there's two products that I really love, which is Morningstar Farms and Boca. And they make the best stuff. Morningstar Farms does like chicken patties and chicken nuggets and corn dogs and all this stuff. It tastes exactly like meat. You just have to prepare it the right way. Now, I prepare everything with butter, which is why I say, staying away from the dairy could be difficult, even cooking at home. But especially when you're out on the road, what are you going to do? So I need to be able to go to Taco Bell, so I get like a bean burrito with cheese. Or I go to like Wendy's and get a baked potato with cheese. So I incorporate a lot of dairy still into my diet.
Right.
Which is why it would be very, very hard for me to go completely vegan. But again, if you're trying to stay away from the dairy, you can do it that way. All the stuff that I just suggested to you in the supermarket is all vegan. Or you can do it kind of the easier, softer way, which is what I do, and still incorporate the dairy, but you just got to cut out the red meat, you cut out chicken, you cut out fish, all that kind of stuff. So there's basically no fat. And the thing that people need to remember is that when you eat a piece of meat, a steak, hamburger, anything like that, it sits in your colon for 7 years.
7 years?
7 years it takes to digest one single piece of meat.
So what happens when you eat like me, like when I eat like 7 double quarter pounders with cheese? So that's 49 years?
You're basically a rolling freaking meatball. It's basically what you got.
I have a solution, and this is I'd like to end my podcast like this. I have a solution. I'm cutting all that shit out. What if I just eat pussy?
That's a beautiful solution.
There's no nothing. There's no fat. There's no dairy. There's no gluten. There's no nothing. Maybe a little hair, but that's about it.
You can get away with it. See, my motto in life has always been, I don't eat anything that was killed. So therefore, as long as it's still
it's alive. No, I'm saying
at it.
Live. That's it. You know what? I'm officially writing my own book. Fuck the Atkins diet. Fuck the South Beach. Fuck everything. It's going to be the vegetarian diet. That's it.
Vegetarian.
That's it.
I am a vegetarian.
Are you?
I have to say.
Can you be a spokesperson? Will you be?
Absolutely. And let me tell you something. You find a vegetarian that's a vegetarian, and you're in even better shape.
Oh my God! I think I'm gonna have you back on because I think we have to get deeper into this whole food thing. And but I really wanted to. I didn't want to sacrifice.
Speaking of vegetarians, we have to get deeper into the hole.
Deeper into the hole, the rabbit hole. Look at you, Corey. You're a man cut from the same cloth as me, my friend. And I'm not talking about the. Listen, Corey, thank you so much for being on. I definitely don't feel like we've covered everything, so I'd like to do it again at some point. Maybe when you're on the road, we can have you like call in and you know we get some stories from the road and how it's been. But I want everybody.
That would be fun. Maybe we could even set up a live podcast and do a song live on the air.
Yes,
that would be fun too.
That would be great. Like and here's what we should do. We should do some shows together.
Well, we need to do that because you've got a dynamic voice, my friend.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much.
I saw you at the Steel Panther show, and you can belt out some AC/DC there.
Thank you very much. It comes from my big schlong. That's where all my, they say it's the diaphragm,
exactly
but
right.
it's bullshit.
That's
It's
exactly
not has nothing to do with the diaphragm, by the way. It's all in the schlong. But
I agree. So, before we go, I just want to mention we are touring this summer. We're going to be doing a very expansive tour. We're doing like 50 dates before the year is up. So we're going to go all over the place. We're starting on May 21st in Detroit, Michigan, and we'll be going all the way through the United States before the end of October. So if anybody wants to come out and see us live, we'd love to see you in person and check out the tour dates, which were just released. So we just have the preliminary dates. There's going to be more added, some taken away, but for the most part, you can get the general gist of it.
The general jizz.
You like that? So you can go to my website, CoreyFeldman.net, or you can check out my MySpace page, myspace.com/technology analogy, which is the name of the album, and get our tour dates and our schedule and down and check it out.
Awesome. Well, listen, congratulations on the tour, and I look forward to talking to you more about this stuff. Corey Feldman, everybody. Say later. Yeah.
Thank you, Paulie. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. I'll
Peace
talk to you
love.
later.
Peace and love.
Shalom, my friend.
Shalom, shalom.
All right. So there he is, Corey Feldman. I got to say, time flies, man, when you're talking to when you have a good guest, because I didn't even realize it. We're over an hour. So that is it. I can't do any more. So I will try next week to do the Yo Paulies. I actually had a bunch of Yo Paulies, a lot of new email. But please don't be discouraged. Keep emailing me at yopaulie@thePaulieZshow.com. And you can follow me at ZO2, ZO2.com, Facebook.com/ZO2band. What else do we got? MySpace.com/ZO2. And of course, my Twitter, which is Twitter.com/ZO2Paulie. And I want to thank Corey for a very, very intriguing conversation. I really wish we had more time to get into the food and actually even the action figures. We didn't even get to talk about the toys. When he said toys, you should have seen my face. I lit up. So we're going to have Corey on again. We'll definitely have him on again. And we'll talk. We won't talk so much about Pink Floyd. We'll get more into the toys and the food. And but just so you guys know out there, I've been doing pretty good with the 2 weeks. No dairy, no gluten. I haven't cheated. I've been very, very good. And let's see how long it lasts. I'll keep you guys posted. And, Corey, we'll talk more about that stuff later. But anyway, thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Corey, thanks so much. This is Paulie Z saying later.